next group of bacteria which is mentioned in your syllabus is Chlamydiae. So Chlamydiae, they are obligate intracellular bacterial parasites as like viruses. They live inside the cells of the human beings or any other animals. Same like that, these Chlamydiae, they are also very small in size and ovoid in shape, and they stain gram negative, and they are also obligate intracellular bacterial parasites. So they are the parasites of human beings, animals, and birds. So they live in a columnar or a transitional epithelial cells of mucous membranes, mucosal lining. There will be a columnar and transitional epithelial cells. So inside that columnar epithelial cells, these bacteria enter and they start multiplying. So they are obligate intracellular bacteria. As you have seen, other bacteria, they can live outside the human cell also, but these need a cell to grow and multiply. Otherwise, they cannot live. They can only grow and multiply inside the cell of human or any other animal or bird cells. They had for a long been object of taxonomical confusion. There was a confusion. So whether these group of bacteria are bacteria or virus, because of their very small size, and all the filters meant for bacteria, they used to pass through, because filtrability and failure to grow in a cell-free media. So they were tried to grow it in a cell-free media. So these Chlamydia, they need a cells to grow. So virus also fail to grow in a cell-free media. So same like that feature was there for this group of bacteria. So that's why there was a confusion. Because of their small size, they used to pass through the filters which can filter off the bacteria. So and then the failure of the growth of these group of bacteria in a cell-free media has led to the confusion whether these group of bacteria are viruses or bacteria. Next, based on the human diseases, they were then known to cause. They were called psittacosis, lymphogranuloma, trachoma, PLT viruses. So then, or non-committally, they are called as a PLT agents. PLT agents, psittacosis, lymphogranuloma, trachoma, PLT agents they were called as. So then they possess both DNA and RNA. They have a cell walls and ribosomes, and they replicate by binary fission without an eclipse phase. And they are susceptible to bacteria also and other chemotherapeutic agents. So that's why they were accepted as a bacteria. So they are responsive to antibacterial chemotherapy, and they possess DNA and both RNA and DNA, and they even have a cell walls, ribosomes, and they replicate by binary fission. So because of having all these features, they were called as a bacterias. Otherwise there was a confusion because of small size, and they used to pass through the filters which usually filter off the bacterias. So that's how they were kept under the group of bacteria, because of having both RNA and DNA, because they have a cell walls, ribosomes, and binary fission. So and even they are responsive to the antibiotics. So that's how they categorize this group of organisms as bacteria, Chlamydia group, Chlamydia. Sir Samuel Bedson recognized and studied and said psittacosis. So he made a study on psittacosis, Sir Samuel Bedson. So that's how the name came, Bedsonia. They were called as Bedsonia. So these group of bacteria were called as Bedsonia. But later they changed it as uh, Chlamydia. So the genus is Chlamydia, family is Chlamydiaceae, and order is Chlamydiales. Chlamydiales. So this genus Chlamydia, it contains three species: Chlamydia trachomatis, Chlamydia psittaci, Chlamydia pneumoniae. So these are the three species of genus Chlamydia. So next let us discuss about the morphology and growth cycle of Chlamydia. So Chlamydia, they occur in two forms: elementary body and reticulate body. So formerly they were called as the initial body as the reticulate bodies. So they are seen in two forms: elementary body and the reticulate body. So this elementary body is extracellular or infective form. It is a spherical particle. Size is around 200 to 300 nanometer in diameter, with a rigid trilaminar cell wall similar to the cell walls of gram-negative bacteria. So, and an electron dense nuclide will be there. And then next second form, it is a reticulate body. Reticulate body. It is intracellular. It grows and replicates inside the cell, and size is 500 to 1000 nanometer in size. Its cell wall is fragile and pliable, leading to pleomorphism. Means, so the cell wall is very delicate, fragile, and pliable, and because of this, there will not be any fixed size and shape of this reticulate body form of chlamydia. So, infection is initiated by chlamydia by attaching to the uh, surface of susceptible epithelial cells. So, mucosal columnar epithelial cells, what we discussed earlier. So, the chlamydia, they initiate the infection by the attachment to the elementary body. So, elementary body, it attaches to the epithelial cells, and it enters into the epithelial cells by endocytosis, is shown in the figure. You can see 47.1 figure. So inside the cell, host cell, so it will enter into the host cell by endocytosis, and once it enters inside the host cell, the elementary body lies within the endosome, and it is separate from the host cell cytoplasm by the endosomal membrane throughout its active growth cycle. So by about 8 hours, elementary body within the endosome undergoes a spiroplast like transformation. So it forms a large reticular body which begins to divide by binary fission by 12 hours. So that's how it will enter into the columnar epithelial cells of mucosal layer, and it starts multiplying by binary fission, and it causes the infection among the human beings, all animals, and birds even. So that is about the morphology of chlamydia. So as we discussed, there are three different species in a chlamydia. So Chlamydia trachomatis, Chlamydia psittaci, Chlamydia pneumoniae. So these three species, they cause infections among all animals and human beings and even birds also. So let us see different species, they cause different diseases among birds and animals and human beings. Chlamydia trachomatis, serotypes are there. So there will be different serotypes. So A, B, B, A, C, these serotypes, they lead to endemic blinding trachoma, and Chlamydia trachomatis D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. So they lead to a disease called conjunctivitis, inflammation of the conjunctiva of eyes, and even genital chlamydiasis, genital infections, and in pneumonia among infants, that is children who belong to 1 year. So that causes pneumonia also. Chlamydia trachomatis D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. these serotypes, they cause conjunctivitis, genital infections, and pneumonia among infants. And Chlamydia trachomatis, serotypes L1, L2, L3, they lead to lymphogranuloma venereum. And Chlamydia psittaci, there are many serotypes that leads to psittacosis disease, psittacosis. And Chlamydia pneumoniae, formerly it was known as TWAR strain. So it causes acute respiratory diseases among human beings. So this is about human diseases caused by Chlamydia. Next, let us discuss about the species of Chlamydia. The first among them is Chlamydia trachomatis. Actually, it is a very common cause of eye and genitourinary tract infections, very leading cause. So it causes eye infections and genitourinary tract infections. So it leads to keratoconjunctivitis. So the name trachoma. So Chlamydia trachomatis is the name of the species. So the name trachoma has been derived from a Greek word trachus. The meaning is rough. So what happens here is conjunctiva and cornea, they go rough. So because of infection by the chlamydia, they will be very rough. So the infection it transmits from person to person by fingers or fomites. Fomites are the objects which contain the organisms. They are called as fomites. So the person will be touching his eyes. So the organisms will come into his eyes and he will touch the pen, books, or some table. So the person who comes and touches that book, table, and pen, so they start getting the infections. That's how from person to person, so by contact or by contact with the fomites and even with the dust. So if the person's eye drops have fallen onto the floor, if that dust falls onto the eye of a person, that leads to an infection among normal people. So that's how the infection gets transferred from one person to other person. So the treatment of this trachoma, so that is the infection by the Chlamydia trachomatis trachoma. It is a local application and oral administration of sulfonamides and tetracycline antibiotics. So they can control the infection of the trachoma, that is infection caused by Chlamydia trachomatis. So this trachoma, it is present everywhere in the world. Around 500 million people are estimated to be affected every year, and particularly it is prevalent in the developing countries, poor countries, because of unhygienic conditions. They don't take bath, they don't maintain the personal hygiene. Because of lack of personal hygiene, this trachoma exists in the developing and poor countries. So mainly Middle East countries, Africa, India, and the other east countries, Middle East countries and all. So the control of this disease includes mass education like health education programs and even antibiotic therapy, and vaccination is also has not proved to be effective. So giving vaccines against this trachoma infection has not that effective. So only by giving education regarding the personal hygiene and by using antibiotic therapy, though among those who are suffering from trachoma, can control the infections. Next species of chlamydia, it is Chlamydia psittaci. It causes psittacosis. Psittacosis is a disease. It is very commonly seen in parrots. Psittacosis. Psittacos, it means parrot. Psittacos meaning is parrot. So this disease is very commonly seen among parrots, a disease of parrots caused by a Chlamydia psittaci, one of the species of Chlamydia group bacteria it is. So this disease is acquired by a non-cetacean birds also, which was called as ornithosis, but nowadays they are not using that ornithosis term. So they discuss all that under the heading psittacosis only. So this infection gets transferred from birds to human beings. Those people who work with birds, they are occupational workers who are doing poultry work, and pigeon farmers, and pet shop owners, and veterinary doctors. So they are more prone to suffer from this infection, psittacosis. Even the infection can enter through the inhalation of some infected dust. So the infection very rarely transmits by the bite of the parrot, but cases are noted. Parrot, when it bites, infected parrot, when it bites the human being, it may transmit the infection psittacosis. That is also seen. The incubation period of this psittacosis is about 10 days. So it is seen like a influenza like symptoms. So there will be a pneumonia and common cold, running nose, fever, and there will be a weakness, and it may lead to septicemia. The infection may enter into the blood, it may cause serious effect, and it may lead to meningoencephalitis. Very rarely it may lead to meningitis and encephalitis, inflammation of the covering of the brain and spinal cord, that is meningitis. Encephalitis means inflammation of the brain tissue, and it may lead to endocarditis also, inflammation of the endocardium of the heart, and even it may lead to pericarditis and arthritis, inflammation of the joints, and it may lead to typhoid like symptoms. So these are all some of the groups of symptoms caused by Chlamydia psittaci, one of the species of Chlamydia group. The condition is known as psittacosis. Psittacos meaning is parrot, very commonly seen among parrots and other birds. Those people who work with the birds, they are more prone to suffer from psittacosis. So incubation period is around 10 days. So the symptoms will be like pneumonia and other influenza like symptoms, common cold, running nose, and all. So it may very rarely lead to some complications such as meningoencephalitis, endocarditis, pericarditis, arthritis, typhoid like symptoms, and even it may lead to septicemia and death also, very rarely. So that is about Chlamydia psittaci, one of the species of Chlamydia group. It causes psittacosis. So next, let us discuss about another species of Chlamydia, that is Chlamydia pneumoniae. So Grayston and colleagues in the year 1986, they have isolated a chlamydial strain from a person who is suffering from acute respiratory disease in Taiwan, and they designated it as a Chlamydia psittaci. Chlamydia psittaci strain TWAR. So that they have designated that strain as Chlamydia psittaci strain TWAR. So TWAR means Taiwan acute respiratory. So it possessed the group specific antigen in common with Chlamydia psittaci and Chlamydia trachomatis. So there was a group specific antigen is common to Chlamydia psittaci and Chlamydia trachomatis, but it cannot be mixed with them. It is a little different from Chlamydia psittaci and Chlamydia trachomatis. So because it is having a species specific antigens. So this Chlamydia pneumoniae is having a species specific antigens and DNA hybridization and restriction endonuclease analysis. So that makes the difference. This this Chlamydia pneumoniae, it is a human chlamydia. So Chlamydia pneumoniae will not affect any birds, any other animals. It only affects human beings, and human to human transmission is also seen. and it is restricted to human beings. It is not seen among any birds, any other animals. The infection is seen among only human beings. So, and even this organism grows very poorly in cell cultures, and because of all these properties, it has been classified as a separate species called Chlamydia pneumoniae. So there are many differences between Chlamydia psittaci and Chlamydia trachomatis. So that's why they have separated it into a separate species called Chlamydia pneumoniae. So it is a very common cause of respiratory disease in older children and adults. So older children and adults, they suffer from respiratory disease all over the world due to Chlamydia pneumoniae. So it leads to pneumonia like symptoms, influenza like symptoms, and all. There will be a running nose, cough, and fever, all that will be there. So antibodies have been demonstrated in the sera of 30 to 50% of adults from different parts of the world. So antibodies against Chlamydia pneumonia have been recognized among the people who suffer from infection from Chlamydia pneumoniae. So, clinical spectrum includes acute upper respiratory infection, bronchitis, and pneumonia. As I told you, running nose, cough, and all will be there, fever will be there, upper respiratory tract infection, bronchitis, and even pneumonia it may lead to. So, it has been associated with the adult onset asthma. So, asthma which starts among adults. So, it is associated with adult onset asthma. So, antibiotics such as tetracycline and erythromycin are very effective in treating the Chlamydia pneumoniae infection. So, they can be controlled. The infection can be controlled with erythromycin and tetracycline antibiotics. That is about Chlamydia pneumoniae. So, this completes our Chlamydiae. So, they are the obligate intracellular bacterial parasites of human beings, animals, and birds. So, these are the group of bacteria, very small in size. They get filtered from the filters which are meant for bacteria, very small in size. That's why they confused with a virus. So, in early days, they were considered as viruses only, and later with some studies, because they have a cell walls, ribosomes, and they replicate by binary fission, and they have both DNA and RNA. Because of all this, and even the infection caused by chlamydia group of bacteria are responsive to the antibiotics such as tetracycline, erythromycin, and all. So because of all these features, they were considered as bacteria, not virus. So that completes our chlamydia.